Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Murdoch. This is Webinars with Wendy. We've been doing a series of webinars now, and we're up to about 250. I think that's what this one is. It's been great bringing all my guests to you, and I'm going to keep going. I've got Hilton Herbs coming next week, so we can talk about herbs for horses, and Ida Hammer's coming back. She's always a fab person to talk to. And we've got a bunch of other guests. We got to nail them down. It's holiday season, it gets a little tougher, but we'll let you know what they're going to be. And just remember to subscribe to the Murdoch Method newsletter at murdochmethod.com so that you get the emails every Sunday, so you know who the guests are and when we're going to have them. Today, my guest is one of my fave people, Laura Plunkett. And Laura and I met 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that. 4 years ago out at Misty Meadows at Equine Learning Center on Martha's Vineyard. And we instantly became fast friends. And Laura has helped me talking to my animals when they've needed a little guidance, and we've just had a blast together. And so this one here is the basics of animal communication. I'm going to turn it over to Laura so she can give you her little intro spiel, and then we'll get going. Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining me.
And Wendy, before I talk about myself, and I think we've done like 7 or 8 webinars together, and I've loved every minute of it. But you just sent out an email about the Patreon. And, you know, every webinar I'm saying to you, you're giving such a gift to the equine community. And every time I want some information, I can go to your page, your Surefoot Equine page. And am I screwing that up? I hope not. Surefoot Equine.
Surefoot Equine YouTube channel. Yep, you got it.
YouTube channel. Yeah. And there's so much value in what's there. So I just think us all chipping in to support it, and I think it's just a no-brainer. And also I'm just excited that you're keeping going because you're bringing such good people to us all. So thank you.
And I'll pop the link in the chat there once I find it here.
Great. And I'm looking at the names of some of the people here. These are ringers. Like, there's a lot of people watching this that already know a lot about animal communication and have beautiful, beautiful relationships with their animals. So this is exciting to see all of you here.
That's okay.
My background,
to have those regulars. That's the fun.
It's great. It's great. So I'm Laura Plunkett. I have been working in intuition since I was 35 and teaching people how to get quiet in their mind, let everything else go, open up their sixth sense, get information. My specialty is with animals. I absolutely love the moment where you feel that connection and you get to share yourself with an animal and the animal gets to share themselves with you, hopefully for the betterment of that animal and the help. So, you know, my mission being here today is to give everybody a chance for some practice while Wendy talks to her cat that we determined needs some help, needs saving.
I'll explain the situation here in a moment. Yes.
You'll understand. You'll be able to follow along, but also this is open for you to ask any questions, nothing stupid. It can be general or specific, and especially start thinking about what your blockers are, what gets in the way of you regularly feeling comfortable talking to your animals, because that's what we're here for today.
You know, that's such a big point that so many people feel like, oh, I can't, but it's because they don't trust what they hear. You know, that we get that self-doubt piece going, and then that kind of gets in the way. I've had the experience of animals yelling at me in a way so loudly it was not avoidable. So it's, if you haven't had that experience, you just need a stronger personality. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, no, I think you're bringing up a good point. So we asked who talks to their animals, right? And we've got all these people in the chat saying yes, but there's people who don't and haven't. And I would say the reasons that I encounter all the time is I can't, I'm not an intuitive person. Mm-hmm. I don't have a quiet mind. I don't have the time. I would argue it's the most efficient way to spend your time. Cuts down on a lot of wasted time and wasted vet bills and all of that. And some is I don't trust what I get, so it's frustrating, or I try really hard, but I don't get anything. So if that's you, those are all good things. If any of that you want me to talk more about, you can just put that in the chat. But I completely understand how it can feel that way. And yet, in my experience, everyone can do this. I think it's a universal ability.
I think sometimes it's harder for us to, because we have a relationship with our own animals, it's just like our own people. Sometimes it's harder to talk to the ones close to us and easier to talk to somebody else's. And I think that that's one of the reasons why people get stuck, is that there's too much emotion around it. And so like, it's always a great idea. Like whenever I've been to animal communication classes and stuff, is like talking to somebody else's animal is a little bit easier because you don't have that emotional attachment or investment, really is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we'll, and we can talk some about that, because again, it really does still come down to quieting the mind.
Yeah.
Because if you can pretend you've never seen your animal before, if you can get to that point of true quiet and presence and curiosity, the empty teacup, you know, that story about if you have a full teacup, if your mind is so full, then you can't take in anything more.
yeah.
You can empty the teacup. If you can quiet your mind, anything can come in. So we can talk a little bit more about that.
And for anybody watching this webinar, especially afterward when we post it, if you're skeptical about animal communication, I'm going to ask you how this thing works. It's called an iPhone. And, you know, I mean, I pick up my iPhone, I hit my WhatsApp app, and I talk to somebody in Europe or Australia or video chat. And it's like, how the heck does that work? There's no wires. So it's a frequency. And I think when we start to look at animal communication as tuning into the animal's frequency, just the way tuning in a radio or tuning in your iPhone or whatever, then it helps those people who need a little more convincing, or just need to feel a little more like it's not so weird, which it isn't.
Yeah.
That, you know, if you can't explain that, then how, you know, and it works.
I think also verifying, we talk a lot about that, validating what you get gives you confidence. So we can say, oh, I believe in it, but that's a little bit too loose. What you want to do is you want to practice and then go check out your answers. And that will then show you, are you really doing it? Are you making it up? Is that thoughts? And that's fine. Sometimes you think you felt that your horse is hurting in its back, and then you go palpate and you've got nothing, and they seem comfortable when you ride them, and you're saying, where did that come from? That's okay. That just means maybe you got sidetracked a little. Maybe that was a worry that came in. But on the other hand, if you get that feeling and you can remember exactly what it felt like, how you knew in a sense, and then you go out to your horse and you palpate and they dip their back, then you remember, okay, that's the feeling I'm looking for. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
so
it's a little bit of trust, but verify. Like,
exactly,
trust what you're hearing, and then see, does it fit with what I know? I mean, years ago, before I met you, Laura, I used to be around different animal communicators, and just like anybody, some of them are better than others, and some of them I resonated with, and what they told me made sense and it checked out, and other people I was like, do you have the right horse? And that's okay. That's just like any good practitioner. You want to find a good practitioner, or, you know, practice being better at what you do, so that, and verify the answers, so that you get that comfort of listening and then going, yeah, that really checks out.
Also, your thinking mind will start to feel very different from your intuitive mind. So once you start practicing, those beautiful pearls of wisdom that you hear are going to feel just slightly different internally than your worries, your thoughts. He looked stiff yesterday. And so you're going to be able to go, oh, wait, that had the feeling and the location even. We can talk a little bit more about that. But so I'm seeing that people are writing in.
I was going to say, I'm going to read some of these. It says, Kathleen says, I have difficulties connecting on demand, so to speak. And I can understand that. I often hear them if I'm just going about my day. What will help? My mind is quite quiet, but you know, I mean, that's I totally get what she's saying, that sometimes when we go to actually do this and we think we're quiet, they don't want to talk to us. But if we kind of leave them sort of around.
I have a different take on it. So let me what comes to mind for me is that I bet when you're not looking for it, you have a more relaxed feeling or a little bit more receptivity, and you can certainly respond back and let me know if this is correct. But when you go to practice, there's a little more tightness, a little more tension, because a good communicative animal is going to want to come when you're practicing.
Okay.
So I think it's what you bring to the practice. I am going to mention, I have a mini course. We've talked about it before. This is a new one that's on my website. And what that does is give you what we're going to do today, so that you could just say to yourself, okay, 3 times a week, I'm going to spend 12 minutes or whatever and practice. And I think that's the key. Having something repetitive that leads you will help you get it to happen on demand.
Yep. So Rhonda says, I tend to protect myself from letting the wrong idea into my mind when talking to my horse.
Rhonda, can you say a little bit more about what you mean? Protect myself from the wrong idea.
You mean, yeah, Rhonda, do you mean from like your worry mind ideas, like your analytical trying to jump in there, or she'll get back to us. Rhonda will get
the
back.
other thing is when you have multiple animals, you do need to make sure you're talking to the correct animal. And I had a client write into me the other day and say, whenever she goes to talk to one of her animals, a neighbor's animal comes in and pushes
wow.
in. And I was just saying, there's a little bit of a etiquette around it. You can say hello to the animal that's appealing to you, that says, please listen to me. And you can listen for a moment, see what the deal is, and then say, could you step over here? You don't have to leave, but could you just stop, so that you kind of park them, and then you can start with your own animal or the target that you're looking for.
Okay, so Carolyn says, yes, we both said this. We don't want to worry our animals. Yeah.
I don't want to worry our animals.
Yeah, well, like, classic example with Al being lame, when you're standing there and you're trying to talk to him, but you're worrying, you don't want to, I think that's what they mean is.
Right. Well, let's jump in. How about if I go through the steps and I lead you in one?
Okay, let me just read this last comment.
Yep.
Okay. My time with a Reiki master proved that I have no skill. This is Patty. My conversation with my horse is always one way. I talk to him, I try to listen, and what I get from him is what comes from me, not him. I'd love to know what he really thinks when he really hurts, but I don't. Okay. And Karen says, it seems like trying too hard gets in the way. Yeah. And Rhonda says, emptying my mind tends to make me a little insecure. Oh, okay.
Yes, that peace and quiet can be unnerving.
Yeah.
I get that. Your Reiki master, your time there proved you have no skill. That's one of those things you'll have to let go of, right? We all have to let go of performance anxiety. We have to let go of people telling us this is woo-woo or crazy. There's so many things we have to let go of to come into the present moment. So let me run you through this.
And Laura's going to put me on the spot here to try and talk to my animal with you guys. Okay. Just.
And to give Wendy credit for being brave, we are going to speak to her cat, who she just found way down the road where it's dangerous. So we want to ask him not to do that. And it is always harder to talk to your own animal, but that's I'm just glad you're willing to try, because I'll be able to lead you through some of the quieting of the mind first, the emptying out the thoughts, because it's your own animal. It's really important.
Should we give you a little background on Buster before we get started?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so a little over 3 years ago, Brad and I adopted a brother, sister, Buster and Lily. They had been feral, so their ears are tipped, adopted by a woman, and then she had a stroke and died, and they wound up back in this private facility in a cat house where they had the run of the place from February till November when we adopted them. So we brought the 2 of them home. Buster would not talk to us. He used his claws to communicate everything, including everything, in, out, food, up, down, climbing the walls. And Lily was terrified. And so she hid. But Laura talked to them about a year. I'm not sure, maybe it was 6 months later or something, because using his claws to communicate was really rough on our house. And so she asked him if he could either rub on my leg or talk. And he didn't use his voice at all at that point. And so he did. He would rub on my leg, and that would mean I could let him out rather than him clawing on our furniture, which he still does a little, but it's so much better. So anyway, he's kind of the boisterous boy. He loves the outdoors. He brings us presents. And one day he was going into the road, and Laura, I think it was the same conversation. There's a hill as you come down to our driveway. So it's very dangerous to be out on the road going toward town because of this hill. And she asked him not to go there. And we'd not seen him in the road. I mean, he basically went into the swampy area, and basically we never saw him on the road until last night when I turned down my road, and he was many houses up the road heading to town. And the problem is that you pop your door open, he climbs right in because he loves car rides, and I give him a ride home. But this is not safe to be wandering around on the streets of Little Washington.
That's right. And that brings up something. This is one of the reasons it's so important to start to pursue being able to do this for yourself. I'm saying this to our audience and to anyone watching the webinar later, is that, you know, an animal communicator can come in like I did and talk to Buster, but old habits die hard. And so here he is. It held for a while. It's the same thing when you talk to a horse that cribs. I can talk to them, and for 3 weeks they won't crib, and the next time they get injured or they have any kind of trauma, it reasserts itself as a calming thing that they do for themselves. So being able to learn this skill, you can reinforce things over and over as needed. So, all right. So let me just run through the steps that I'm going to be leading you through. And
do I need to go get pen and paper?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
Nope. I'm going to lead you through the whole thing, and everyone else can follow along and practice the steps as we go. Really taking this seriously means setting up your environment. You have privacy. No one's going to interrupt you. You're not pressed for time, and you have a pen and paper. Very simple, but no distractions. And then centering yourself, I'm going to help you with getting yourself, body and mind, into a quiet, peaceful place. Making the connection is a process I'll describe twice. Now is important to start thinking about what you're going to be doing. You're bringing your animal to mind. All that means is you have a picture, in your case of Buster, in your head, and then you're asking to be connected. Now, asking to be connected, I almost throw that photo right up to the universe and say, help me. The reason for that is I think we have to remind our minds that there's something greater happening here, that's not in charge of thinking. It's a letting go. It's just saying, I want more information than I can think up myself. Okay. And then I'll ask you to go to a peaceful location in your mind's eye. That could be a beach. It could be in Little Washington, wherever you want to go. And you wait and observe until you feel or sense that animal coming closer. And then the next step is actually to say, hello, I'm here because I'm learning, I'm practicing. I'm not great at it. I still say that. I'm a beginner. Please, will you help me have a communication with you, to have a conversation? So I ask for permission. I'll wait for the answer. Now that might be a click, a sense of rightness, or Buster, in this case, may actually nod, or you'll hear, yeah, mom, or something will happen. And that's why I really ask people not to rush this, because if you rush through all these making connection stages, it's harder to do the rest. The negotiating communication means that, let's say you sense Buster very faintly in front of you. You want to say, could you come closer? I'm having trouble being sure you're there. I can't hear anything in my head. I can't see anything in my mind's eye. Whatever you want to experience that you're not experiencing, you can ask for. Okay? And you can also say, can you hear me? Do you know I'm here? Anything that helps you all of a sudden feel slightly like locked in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I'm going to talk you through the communication. The thing we're going to do, because we have an agenda with Buster, I always start with, what would you like to tell me? Because it's out of respect that we don't just go, don't you go in the road. And that's like our, one statement. So you're going to listen, then you're going to send your concerns, your reasons. When we talk about asking, I think it's very effective just to think your question in your head. Okay. It could even be as simple as a question mark. You just sort of send that feeling of, what would you like to say? It can be very open-ended. But when I say sending messages, you may, in this case, want to show Buster that cars can be very dangerous, and you could play a little movie in your head that you're sort of sending to him. That's of the dark. It's of the cars. You could get really hurt. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then you could also show him the safety of the places you want him to be. But I would say pictures, video in your mind is sometimes better than words.
Okay.
That part of the communication. We're not going to do a body scan today. And then the disconnecting is very important as well, because you want to send love and thanks, even if you're not sure how effective the communication was, because oftentimes you will be doubting yourself, but that animal actually got a lot out of it. So you want to finish with love, with thank you, say it's time to go. You are going to ask the greater good, please disconnect me from this animal. And it's very important during this goodbye period that you are making sure the animal is no longer feeling close to you. So you either see them walk away, if you're a visual mind's eye person, or you feel their presence moving off. And the reason I write everything down written here is because it's very much like a dream. So you feel, when you first come out of it, I've got it, I know what happened. And then you go to do something, someone talks to you, and you will forget the nuances and the detail.
So someone asked, in your experience, can everyone do this, or are there some people that are hopeless? And Patty, I really hope you don't think you're hopeless.
I run into people who say, I want to do it, but I don't have the time. I would say that really busy people who sort of give it a few minutes here or a few minutes there, that's just not going to work. So but I have never met a person who made the time to practice that couldn't do it. To some degree, enough to be able to get valuable information.
And I do think that sometimes our expectation of what communication is going to be like is not necessarily what it's like.
Yeah. Well, I think we want to talk about motivation. It's one thing if you're trying to earn a living doing it, then you need a certain level of proficiency that I don't think everyone can do.
Right.
But if you're in this to help your animals and to help your neighbors or your friends' animals, and you're just coming with an open heart to say, I'd like to help as many beings as I can, then that level of being able to get quiet, and all of a sudden, do you remember that feeling you had where you were inside and you could tell your animal was thirsty?
Oh, that was in 99.
I mean, those kind of things, if you're that animal that's outside thirsty, that matters. If you have done enough so that you can lay quietly, ask the animal how they're feeling, and all of a sudden have the sense, ooh, I can see in my mind's eye that I'm drawn to the animal's back or the animal's right leg. That's not fancy, but it's invaluable. I mean, it could save all this pain and worry. So I do think everyone can get to that.
And there are different levels of responsive. In other words, I can so clearly, I have certain stories that have stuck in my head, but many, many years ago, I was asked to look at these two hunters, and I suggested they use an animal communicator, and they said the only thing the horse said is, my hind feet hurt. And that was it. That was his level of conversation. And they checked it out, and his feet were a problem. But other people that I know, animals that I know, are effusive. And so, sometimes it's not you, it's who you're talking to.
Absolutely. And sometimes you'll get, when I'm talking to a horse that's shy, taking the time to be patient, to listen, to have a short conversation, I will then get an email saying he's more expressive, he's more connected to me. So you can use that to help an animal almost change their personality. And then next time you go to talk to them, you get a little bit more and a little bit more. So these things are fluid.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar to people. Some people love to talk. Other people have a hard time expressing themselves. Some people just don't want to talk.
Yeah. But I would say to everybody that it is coming up on January 1st. It's time to make a resolution, and yours could be, I'm gonna start practicing this skill. So let's get started. How about if I lead you in a conversation with Buster?
Okay.
And
you're going to join me with that, right?
I can check on him. I will check on him. And but I'm just going to lead you, and then I'll check at the end. Okay.
All right. Buster's big enough. I would think he would talk to anybody that wants to talk to. So if anybody else wants, I'm sure they could ask if they can talk to him too.
Yes, this group, maybe that's a better thing now that I think of it. Let's all talk to Buster. Can you put up a photo?
Yeah, let me find one.
They do that in my classes, and Karen's got a good idea. You're going to have a picture. Thanks, okay. Karen.
Let me find a good picture of Buster.
And Carrie, I do love Guinness. It is true. Some of the animals get really excited each time I show up, because it's their time to really communicate and emote.
Okay, so this picture is, I will show you. Just one. Well, this one's an early on picture. Okay, this is when this is 2018. So this is when he first came, but it'll give everybody a really good idea about Buster.
And the thing is, the timing of the photo does not matter. It's the being and the soul inside. All right. Awesome.
That's Buster.
I think actually we can leave that up.
Yeah.
During this, it gives you a little bit of privacy, and you're not, yeah, what a cutie. Okay. So as I said, do what you can so that you're not distracted. No one's going to interrupt you. You have a little bit of quiet. We are all going to talk to Buster. This will be fun, because then everyone can say in the chat what they got.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, it's really important to have your body not be achy, acutely in pain. So the more that you can let your eyes close and then move yourself around so that your body feels quiet, even if you need to lay down to do it. Not you, Wendy.
Yeah, I was going to say not me.
Not you. But you know what I mean. You don't want to be distracted by your body. So start taking a couple deep breaths. That's just a signal to yourself that you're going to pay attention to the rise and fall of your chest, your belly, your back. You can even concentrate on the feeling of the air coming in and out of your nose, going down your throat. Just bringing yourself to the present moment. And embarking on this in the spirit of fun, joy, connection. This isn't a test. There's no failure here. It's just a chance to let the present moment take over. Let all your concerns and worries go. You don't have to be right, and you don't have to be good at this. Just have to be curious. And open to a little adventure of the heart. And Wendy, the more you can just let yourself embark upon this as if you've never met Buster at all, There's no preconceived ideas. You're just letting your mind get really quiet. As you inhale, just feel yourself expanding. As you exhale, how it allows you to sink further into the chair or the couch. This is your time. Feel your feet, the bottoms of your feet. Let your attention wander up to your knees. Hips and waist. Becoming more and more present with your own self. Noticing your boundaries as you go up and feeling the edges of your shoulders. Feeling the weight of your hand. Back of your neck and throat. And then you're going to bring to mind that photo of Buster without any thoughts about Buster. And you're just going to go up into the heavens and say, please connect me to Buster. I could really use your help. And then you're going to start to bring yourself to a peaceful location, such as a beach or the park, or just somewhere where you feel safe and familiar with. Choose somewhere and then put yourself there so that if you're on a beach, you feel the sand under your toes. Perhaps there's a breeze or some sun on your face. Having yourself feel as vividly there as possible. And you're going to ask for Buster to approach you. Just be completely patient. It doesn't matter if he shows or he doesn't show. This is just a time to practice and enjoy the feeling of welcoming Buster to you. Maybe that you feel or see him approaching from in front of you. Maybe that he just pops into your lap or comes around from the back. Just be open and patient and curious. Whether you sense him or not, just ask for him to come closer, to be more vivid. That you're new at this and you want as much help as possible. If and when you do feel him, ask for permission to have a conversation and just negotiate until you feel a real click. If you feel your mind getting busy, just let it go. You can always come back to those thoughts later. You're just curious and peaceful. And now you're just asking Buster simply, is there anything you want me to know? Just a simple question mark. If the answer is confusing or not loud, just remember to keep asking for more clarity, any clarification. And then at this point, this would be a good time to tell Buster that you're concerned about his going off the property and near the road. Almost feel your mind pushing that kind of information toward him in this peaceful location, as if you're watching the same movie, seeing the same images. This is also a time to sweeten the pot, maybe bribe a little bit, show him what you might do for him if he stays around, some treat or something good. I want to thank him for listening. Ask him if there's anything else you need to know because you're getting to the end of the conversation. And then you're going to just say a big thank you and a goodbye and ask him to walk away. He can always communicate with you another time, but you have to go. You're also going to ask to be completely disconnected from Buster on a universal level. You don't want to carry that energy. You don't want to be getting messages after this time. What's really important is to be grateful to yourself at this moment for whatever experience you had, just because you tried. You gave yourself a moment of quiet and peace. And then you're going to start to, once again, really focus on your breathing, committing to memory whatever it is that you received for information. Nice deep breaths, just taking stock of how you feel now compared to when you started this exercise. Hopefully proud of yourself for taking this time, hopefully more peaceful. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And for those of you who have access to the chat, maybe you could let us know what you get. Want to stop the share?
Yeah.
Thank you for being a guinea pig. Do you want to share with us before we get input from anybody else? What was that experience?
As the host of the webinars, that's really hard to do.
It's really hard.
Yeah, because you just feel like, that's hard. It's hard on a webinar to get into a quiet place like that, knowing that it's like a little worried about it.
Being watched. And we do this in classes too on Zoom, where then people can see you, and that's just, it is hard.
Mm-hmm.
But you went through all of the steps, so that's the good thing. So you could feel the sequence that I think works the best. But did you feel him at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, he's a very present cat.
Where did he tell us just a little, give us a little narrative of what happened.
Okay, so he was very ready to talk and was up, we sit on the couch at night, so that's where I saw it. And and the first thing, when you said, what do you want to tell us? He would like more food, but that is his modus operandi lately, is he eats multiple times a day. We've had a little problem with throwing up, but he's been eating a lot lately, and the two of them, we have to dole it out because he sometimes he gorges and then we have a problem. But what I got, if this makes any sense at all, is that he's lonely, which is a weird thing. But what I do know is that there were cats in the two houses going toward the town. There's the house right next to us. He goes and visits Fawn all the time. He didn't mention her at all. And he'll go in her house and he'll go in her car. And then the house next to that was sold, and he was looking forward to new neighbors, but nobody's living in the house. And then the house next to that has a cat. Well, I haven't seen that cat lately. And the house next to that, closer to the town, had a cat that beat everybody up, but that cat's moved. So what I got was he was lonely, which is kind of an odd thing, but maybe cat lonely. So he was going looking for somebody.
Yeah. Anyone else out there want to add to this before we continue to talk about it?
Right, Laura got very warm, like he was rubbing on me. Yes, he stayed for a long time, and I got very cold when he disconnected. He likes visiting other beings. Absolutely. He's very glad he's still living with his sister. Oh, that's cool, because sometimes he chases her around. She's not sure she likes living with him. Let's see. He's a very happy in general, man of the town, bored.
Yep. Goes to town for fun.
Maybe has a friend. We met Wendy's garden, love riding in the car. Yes, loves riding in the car. Might stick around more if there's more food, fun, and friend. Hey, this is great. You guys did a great job. Fun. he came up to my feet. I ran a video of how a truck barreling down the road. He crouched down in a ditch. There is a ditch. And I ran a video of Wendy's garden where he could stay and chase butterflies, not this time of year, and nibble on catnip. Also, Wendy gave him treats and giving him treats. He loves his freeze-dried chicken.
Okay, so can we pause for a second? Because Karen, she's got it going on, because that's what I mean. You've got to show the bad, like this is what could happen to you. And then you got to show the why. These are all the good things. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, he gets lots of treats, but you know, he's an endless treat cat.
I like what Kathy said too. I got the feeling from him. He's kind of cocky. He's like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, Rhonda, I'm with you there on the quieting mind part. I know what I'm doing and it's not dangerous. That could very well be him. And he's my brain went about 47 different places in the last 10 minutes, not with Buster. Maybe that's where I start.
That's very honest and brave, Patty. I appreciate you saying that. We'll talk about a quiet mind. We'll do that next. Go ahead.
Buster has vibrant energy. He said to be happy, he loves to explore and will continue to do so. Would be a good teacher cat. Yeah. And he is I'm surprised he hasn't come downstairs to visit us. He's probably out, but he spends a lot of his time out during the day, but lately with the cooler weather, we've noticed that he's in more, it seems quite unusual for him. And we have a cat tower, which they could care less about all summer. And now they're up on the cat tower every night. Let's see, Janelle says, are you a kitten now? No, I'm a big cat now. I am brave. He showed himself striding boldly off the property. His name may have something to do with his acting boldly. That's how he got his name. Why are you going off the property is something different. No, nothing new, but he thinks it's important, trying to show sister he's not afraid. And she's been more exploratory. She's actually been going down to the front of the yard and much more so than she ever used to. And sit down in a storm. I said, I told him the pavement.
Great. So glad you guys followed along and did it too. That's
awesome. And that's actually a great idea, that the pavement is danger in terms of explaining where he can and cannot go. Yeah, because it would be hard under his feet.
So I also got that he was bored. I also got that he likes some cat up the hill. You know, that there's something going on. He's met a friend. But in terms of behavior change, it sounds like we've got it covered. Because so many people weighed in and talked to him. So you'll have to give us an update.
Yeah, pavement. Well, and the thing is, you know, that's because of the way my house is situated, I don't see the road. So he could just catty corner through the back and wind up out on the road, which I'm thinking that's probably what he did. I don't think he went down our driveway and up. I think he went through the back and therefore missed the hill part at least, and then went out onto the road. But he was heading to town. It was very clear.
A couple things come to mind. One is, this is an example of how if you're going to practice and you're practicing with an animal you don't know well, it's perfect. In this case, Wendy knows a lot about Buster. So do it with the owner so that you can get some validation. It's very hard to do in a vacuum. And the other thing is, if you have a friend you could do it with. So let's say Wendy and I both talk to Buster together, we can compare notes. You could do that. So if you have a buddy, you also can feel more confident and have more fun talking to an animal you don't know.
Sherry brought up playing in the woods, but what's happened on the backside of my property was a lot of brush and a field, and they have torn out all the brush and put in a parking lot. And so he's lost a lot of his, and they had a huge compost pile that is gone. So there was a lot of stuff just over our property line on the back where he used to hang out and explore, and go over and visit the gardeners and all, but that's all changed because they turned it into a parking lot. And so that actually, you know, the boredom could certainly be because all of that interest, literally he would go over every day and go to I'd find him at the compost pile, and I'd find him exploring all the plants and everything. And it was probably 10 feet of bramble and brush that he could
Yes.
put, go and check, and it's all gone. They took it
I
all
want
out.
to highlight something that Shari just said, because she brought up woods and now they're not there. But she noticed in him, see, it makes total sense. He seemed a bit perplexed by my question. This is an empty mind, right? So you might have an idea, aha, I get a horse that says, my back hurts, and I show him a saddle and say, do you need a new saddle? And then you wait and say, and if he's like, a saddle, no. Sometimes that means no one's even riding this horse. Do you see what I mean? So like, you want to see the perplexity, you want to see the animal's response. You're not just trying to hammer them with information. It's a two-way street. So that's exciting, Shari, that you could feel that back.
Linda, he doesn't chase his tail, but he does. This cat is so athletic. He can scale just about anything, and unfortunately he started catching birds last year, so we haven't put out the bird seed. But the other one catches the butterflies. She's not very coordinated, but she will rip my plants apart to catch the butterflies. But Buster's incredibly athletic and incredibly agile. He's actually quite amazing. And so I hadn't thought about the fact that he really lost a lot of his entertainment in the backyard.
So we just have a few more minutes, but should we spend it on quieting the mind? Because I think that's important. And anyone else bringing up any blockers that you want me to talk about or anything you want to share?
So I can't believe we've gone through the hour so fast. And Sherry says he's quite proud of himself, and he is. He's so we might have to, maybe if we actually put some bird seed out and kind of make the backyard more interesting again, that might help, because there's trees, but they're little baby trees. They haven't grown up enough to really provide the kind of cover he would really like to hide in. But that actually makes me think that if we, it's always a trade-off between birds and cats, but if I can keep the cat off the road by giving him some bird entertainment, and they're pretty tall, so he can't actually jump up and catch the birds.
Great.
He popped back in just now and said that he'd love that. Okay, great.
Love it.
I have to talk to Brad.
Thanks everybody for their help with Buster. That's the best.
That's awesome, because that was it's so out of character to find him on the road like that, and so shocking. So it was a perfect timing.
It was. We got him some help.
Yeah.
I said to Wendy, this is life or death. We got to talk to Buster.
Yeah.
But let's talk about quieting the mind, because especially, Wendy, for you and I professionally, I noticed I'm now spending a lot of time in Orange because I've got a new horse, my first horse ever. And I go out, and on the first day, I'm watching her with the trainer, right? I noticed I went with my full teacup, with my busy mind. I'm watching her. I wasn't watching him. Even though I'm there to learn from him, I'm watching her go around. I'm thinking, is that a left stifle problem? What do I feel from her? What's she doing? Because that's what people call me in to do, right?
Right.
And you would go in and you'd watch her for her balance and for all the other information you could give, because you have so much knowledge. Okay. But the knowledge, when we talk about quieting the mind, we know we can do that. We can take our knowledge 10 minutes later. But the thing that we don't have is this other sense, this knowledge that could inform us just as much as our eyes, just as much as our ears, right? And so why not use that too? Why not get all the information we can? And so quieting the mind is about humility, I think, sometimes. We think we know our animals. We think we know the breed. So someone can show you a picture of a collie and you'd say, oh, they're this, they're that, or a hunting dog, or whatever it would be, a lab. And our brain gets busy. Well, fine. It doesn't mean we're wrong, but it's not what we're there for. Right? You've just got to take that animal at face value, just like it's really important to do with people.
Right.
We don't want to characterize them when we're meeting them. We want to be open-hearted and curious when we meet somebody, and quiet so we can listen. So in some ways, everything that you're cultivating with people, you want to do in this practice also.
So do you know anything about heart math?
You have talked to me about it. Yep. Dropping into your heart.
So heart math, the beauty of heart math is it has a biofeedback system.
Yeah.
to help people. So one of the things, we're talking about the busy mind, and for those that have a hard time quieting their mind, the heart math biofeedback system is actually quite a good system because it gives you sound and light. It blinks different colors, or it'll go different colors. Heart math rocks. Yes, Sherry. And so for people that have a really busy mind, I would say check out heart math, because I actually have gone back to it just because life is so hectic.
And you probably noticed in the exercise we did, going back to your body, getting quiet, feeling your feet, all of this also settles you. And in the mini course I did, I take people, what I have is like, for people that need help quieting their mind, they can listen to something before. And one of them is just going back to all the different senses. Because the more so there's this time where just look around, notice your eyes, block out everything else, then your ears, and coming back to the breath in between. But what that does, everything that we can do to stop the noise,
right,
to get really still. I have an exercise about quieting the body, and that's all about, bring yourself in, face whatever you're feeling. So if you're trying to talk to your animal and you've got a hurt shoulder, one of the things you want to do is bring yourself right to that. Notice it. How much does it hurt? Is there anything you can do to relieve it? If not, where is it between 1 and 10? It's a 5. Okay, you've now attended to it. Now you can let your brain forget about it for a few minutes. Do you see what I mean? So
right.
It's all about, and I agree with you, the heart math stuff is also good. Anything you can do to give yourself a break from the busyness.
Yeah, and because I think that's, if there was one thing, then when people say, oh, I have trouble doing this, it's getting to you have to reduce the effort. In other words, in the Feldenkrais community, we talk about reduction of effort. And as you reduce the effort, you increase the gain. You become more sensitive. And so the more busyness or noise or distraction or, road, I always think of it as road noise. You're driving down the highway, there's so much road noise, you have to crank the volume on your radio. But the more road noise you can reduce, that's, sounds in the house, that's distractions, that's children running around, that's car sounds, that even if it's helpful to have like a bit of white noise sometimes to help reduce the other, if you live in the city kind of thing, if you got all other noises, sometimes white noise. But as you reduce the effort, you reduce the busyness around you, that's what allows you to be sensitive enough to tune into this stuff. And I think, that's that for anyone who says, I have a hard time, I would say that's probably the biggest block toward being able to make that connection.
The other thing, okay, so this can get comical, but you get quiet in your mind, you ask to be connected, and you wait and you say, oh, I don't see my animal. Well, it's not working. I can't do this. And you fill in, and all of a sudden it's like, well, of course you can't do it because you can't even wait. And so it's sometimes important to practice a bunch of times, just that waiting. Right. Just go to a quiet place and look. And for me, it's the beach. I sit on a boulder on the beach. I wait. And then I can now, because I've practiced, hey, I can wait forever. You just watch the waves until something else happens. But that's something to cultivate, because it's so peaceful at that moment when you can just be quiet and anticipate and feel curious. The other thing is, when it's your own animal, I talk people through, one of the best things, going back to your not so much effort, is let yourself have your preconceptions first. So before you go into talking to Buster, right, think about, okay, these are my worries. This is what I know about them, blah, blah, blah. Let your mind do it. And then go, okay, thank you. And now.
In other words, don't try to avoid it, embrace it, but then let it go. That's actually that's such a good point. Because sometimes the harder you try to push them away, the louder they get. So if you just give it some acknowledgement and say, listen to your own concerns and then let them go. That's a great idea. That's awesome.
The other thing is, you can be in the middle of an exercise like I just led. You can realize, oh my goodness, I just left my animal and went and thought of something else, right? It's amazing how you can get distracted. Or you start thinking, instead of listening, right? So you're connected to Buster, but then all of a sudden you're saying, oh, maybe I should be feeding him liver. Maybe I should give him kidneys, whatever, you know what I mean? And you're like, where did I go in that conversation? It's not too late to just stop, pause, breathe, and listen again. So you don't have to start the whole exercise over. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You can quiet it.
You can come back. It's okay if you drift, you can come back.
They're very forgiving.
Yeah. You know, and I think that if we're honest with ourselves, that a lot of the conversations we have, we're only partially there, right? We drift off, or especially with our significant others, you know, how easy is it to like half listen to what they're saying or a quarter listen to?
Yeah. Now, one thing I would love to ask everybody, including you, is did you feel better after?
I felt better after reading what everybody else got, because everybody else supported me in telling him to stay off the road.
Because the reason I asked that question is, if you can do this practice in a way where you feel better after, you'll want to do it again.
Yep. Kathleen said yes. And
you want to be kind to yourself. You want it to be rewarding. You want to feel like you achieved something, even if it was just the practice. Because if you say, well, that was a waste of time, or that was terrible, or I didn't do good, you won't want to go back to it.
And Sherry says, yeah, when I connect, I feel a surge in my heart and my eyes water, and then I know I'm with them. It's awesome. And it's so interesting because we all, even if I don't know for sure if it was close, again, it goes back to practice. You know, medicine is a practice. Feldenkrais is a practice. Surefoot is a practice. And what that means is that, you know, it's not something you're going to master. It's something that you're going to continually improve at doing. And this is another one of those. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and ta-da, you can talk to all the animals. It's a practice. And as you hone that skill, and it's a skill, you get better and better at it. It's, yeah.
So we've done it. It's exciting.
Hey, really cool. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you helping me tell Buster that it's really not safe to go on the road. That was such a disturbing place to find him. But Sherry, I knew that they'd taken all the bushes away, and the compost pile was one of his faves, and he used to go over there and they had all kinds of plants, and they had a couple of containers, and that's where he'd spend time. And now that's all gone. So I have to give him some other enrichment, meaning birds. I think that'll work. Oh yeah, Buster does love his mommy. Yep. So I will definitely inform Laura of the continuing story of Buster, but I think you guys
I'll put it out on my Facebook group, because a lot of these people are with me on it's Friends of LP Connection.
Great.
So I will, if you tell me, I'll tell them.
Great. I will do that, and we'll all keep Buster safe. That would be awesome. Yeah. And this has been really fun. And it's so nice to do this like group support thing. That's really cool.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. So you have a regular support group, right? Oh, I have a compost pile. Yes. But that one was better. That one was bigger.
So I am not running classes at the moment because I'm living in Orange with my horse Spirit, but I will be starting up again. And that's what we do. We will all practice together on each other's animals, so that everybody gets some feedback for their animals, and everyone gets practice with animals they don't know. Because as you said, it is an easier way to get your feet wet and to get confident. And then I also do the body scan, because that's a very important thing that we didn't get to, but it's a way of, honestly, at this point in my practice, veterinarians call me or have their clients call me, because it's a way to get at those things that nobody can sort of figure out. And that's why I would say it's so valuable it's not a replacement for anything else. It's just an added level of information.
Exactly. And Patty, to find out more about HeartMath, you can go to heartmath.org. H-E-R-T. Or RG, I can't type tonight. And they have now they have it, actually it's now Bluetooth. Mine is wired on my phone, but you basically, you put on an ear clip and you breathe. It's a breath practice. And that helps you get into what's called coherence, meaning that your heart is now directing your mind instead of your busy mind running your heart. One of the things I found with heart math that was really the key is reducing the number of breaths per minute. That was actually fascinating because I worked with it. I got to get back to it because since I went to Africa, I've kind of everything's hasn't gotten back on track yet. But one of the things I noticed was that and it's not being out of breath. It's not about being out of breath, but it has a pacer for your breathing. And as I increase the duration of each breath, what I found was I got into coherence faster and deeper. So we're right back to this whole thing of breath hooking up with peacefulness and mindfulness and heart. And so that was really fascinating. And I didn't realize it until I moved it up one more notch, and then bingo, all of a sudden it was like I could get into coherence super easy.
Oh, that's the
just a
best.
fascinating little, oh yes, that book. I've read that book it's called Breath by James Nestor. Super, super interesting book. And as a result of that, I mouth tape every night to keep me from being a mouth breather at night, which really has improved. And it's and Brad doesn't snore so much anymore either. So
I love it. But anything we can do to get quiet, right? It's all about getting peaceful and quiet, and we need that at this time on the planet anyway. We really do.
yeah, absolutely, for sure, with everything going on. So so Laura, thank you so much. What's your website again?
lpconnections.com.
Okay. And you can find Laura's short course there, and of course her Facebook group. And it's always a pleasure to have you, Laura. This was really great. And maybe one day you'll have some video of your horse.
I know. She's coming right along. I'm over the moon about it. And thank you, Wendy, because again, I just want to remind everyone that you've got this new thing, the
Patreon. Yep. So if you want to support the webinars with Wendy, there's a patron level of $5 a month to just kind of keep it ticking along, because my staff and I do wind up, especially like I said, sometimes we have to wrangle guests. You're easy. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for today. This was really, really fun.
Really fun.
And also my email, well, the website, you can email me from there. If you leave today and still have more questions, if you got stuck, if anything comes up in the future, I'm always available. You can just reach me.
And Patty, fear not, you can do this, you know. Yeah. It's you can do it. Trust, right? Trust. All right. Well, thanks, Laura. Great to see you. And thank you, everybody, for joining me. Have a wonderful Saturday evening and a lovely rest of your weekend. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.